What's up, everybody? Beer and Ball 5. We're back after the Packers finally get a W on the board. I say finally. I know it's only 2 games, but losing in the first week just sucks. And having a win to talk about is a whole lot better. I'm here with Billy Schmid from 97.3, the game star of Packers OT.
Oh, that's very
Packers
nice.
Radio Network. I mean, that's what you are, sir. That's what you do. It's how you roll. You know, just the man, the myth, the legend on the radio. Like, come on, the comments we get on like Twitter and all the stuff from this podcast on YouTube comments, what have you, is I used to listen to Billy and such little podunk radio, and now he's like the big star. Like, man, you're ascending. Your ascension is nigh.
Well, I appreciate you just strapping me up to the Cheesehead TV rocket ship and hanging out with. Dude, I've met more Packer fans from across the world since starting doing this podcast than I have before. So that's the coolest part, dude.
I love that. I absolutely love that because that's what we're about. And
yeah, no doubt.
We want to bring one of the official voices of Packers OT to the world. That's what we want to do to Packers fans worldwide. Hey, wait, before we get going here, are you going to London? I haven't asked you.
I am not. I am not. There was
man.
I know.
Now.
The worst part was, Nags, as I looked at your travel itinerary that you tweeted on out.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you're going to a match on Saturday?
You damn right.
You're going to a Premier League match on Saturday?
When I saw that Chelsea was playing, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me with my luck.
Yeah, you can't miss that. No, well, and even Arsenal has Liverpool, I believe, that weekend.
Big match.
Too. I mean, there's like 3 games in London. That's a closet addiction that I have at 6 a.m. on Sunday.
Oh, you wake up, you catch from Premier League? Hell yeah.
I know absolutely nothing that's happening. But you know what it's good for, Nags? You can bet on ties, so then both teams score. That's what I really like. I just want everyone to have fun.
You're like Rob Lowe with the NFL hat on the side.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
1,000,000,000%. Logo. Love it. But we're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about football and drink some beer, and that's what we're doing. The Packers 27-10 victors over the Chicago Bears. 30,000-foot view from you. What was your feeling during the game? How did you feel afterwards? How were the calls? Do you guys take calls? I don't know. But
yeah, for sure.
How was the fan kind of feeling around it after the game?
Well, I'd say this. There were many people that I think wanted to temper their excitement, and I get it because there was this thought, you're playing the Chicago Bears. We already know what the Chicago Bears are going to be, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be able to relish the wins, right? Like you got to enjoy the fact that you win a football game. It's too hard. Rodgers says this all the time, and I think people think it's just a cliche. Right. Dude, it is freaking hard to win in the NFL. And it showed this weekend of a lot of teams that I think are lesser opponents going up and nipping teams late because they didn't put a full 60 minutes together. Did the Packers? No. But, Nags, I think they put together a really good 45, 50 minutes of football and had 2 drives in there that I think are really sticking at people of, why don't they tackle better in this run game? Well,
Dave Montgomery's really good.
Yeah, in 13 plays, they gave up 10 yards between the start of the second quarter and the middle of the third quarter. So there's an intensity level that they got to be able to sustain to, I think, fully maximize the defensive potential. But, man, you're seeing it on certain drives. They are fast and really, really fast.
Quay Walker's addition is just like, it just jumps off the screen at you. I'm sure in the stadium it's got to be insane. But, like, the way he's able to cover ground and then arrive under control, that's the thing where it's very unusual for Packers fans, I think, because we are so used to guys maybe going sideline to sideline, maybe getting the angle, maybe arriving when they should, but then being completely out of control, being unable to come to balance and explode through the ball carrier. He does that so naturally. It is such a joy to watch. And the fact that, like, when he arrives, the guy's probably done.
When he tracks down Fields on the 3rd down, everyone wants to talk about the 4th down.
Right.
He tracks down Fields, Nags, and it's a small deal, but he's pulling back on the shoulder pads, and I think it holds him back for the 4 inches that it ended up keeping him out of the end zone. I mean, maybe that's just, pie in the sky, but he takes the perfect angle. He holds back, gets the knee on the ground, and he just flows so instinctively. Different than they've had before. I mean, he arrives like Desmond Bishop, but flows like Devondre Campbell.
Good call.
They need
Oh,
some smack like Desmond Bishop
yeah, they
used to
do.
give, right?
Desmond Bishop had one of my favorite hits of all time in Packers history when he clobbered Brady in that game that Matt Flynn started back in 2010. They
Yes.
came on a cross dog, and Brady just never sees him until it's too late, and he just like decapitates him. It's great. What did you think? Speaking of Devondre Campbell, what do you think of his start so far? It's interesting because we know he had an All-Pro season last year, but there seems to be that kind of lack of absolute, I don't want to say perfection because that's impossible on a football
Mm-hmm.
field, but he's not making the plays you saw him make with regularity last year, and that's been a bit surprising. I think he had a decent game. He certainly didn't, he didn't embarrass himself or anything, but there were plays last year that he seemed to make on the regular that seemed to be eluding him a little bit this year.
Yeah, and he really jumped off the page early last year with the pick against Detroit in the second
Right.
game.
Right.
And to that point, he was the guy that you hadn't seen in that spot for a little while. So I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that's part of it, right? Like we're so enamored with the new
With
puppy
Walker,
that,
right?
that the
Right.
dog that we really, really like is like, hey, I'm over here too. You could feed
Right.
me and take me for a walk. But I would agree that he's left, I think, some of the big splash plays on the field
Right?
a couple of times
It
so far than
definitely
he did
feels
last
that
year.
way.
Yep.
Yes, totally. That's probably a good way of putting it because it's, again, like down in and down out. I don't think he's playing poorly, but it sure seems like, yeah, that extra gear, something's, missing as far as plays that you saw him make last year just don't seem to be materializing. And I will say, there were a handful of plays where I thought he got held pretty clearly on a perimeter, like
Mm-hmm.
run or what have you, didn't get called, and that's going to happen. That's football. But
That's the NFL. Yep.
right, but yeah, the lack of, and maybe it is Walker, maybe because Walker's being asked to do some of the things that Campbell was doing naturally
Well,
last
and
year.
two, Nags, you know this. I mean, I think maybe there's it might not be cognizant, like he might not be cognizant that he's doing it, but he's so
Right.
worried about lining everybody up, right? And
That's a good
keeping,
point.
because
Right.
he is the quarterback right now, it looks like, of the defense. I feel like
Yeah.
Amos was a little bit more of that last year.
Right. Yeah.
And Campbell kind of was able to go and play free. Now he's kind of setting up everything in the middle. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just making excuses because I was called last night on the text line PR for the Packers.
Oh, you got that? You got that too?
And I got
Oh,
the
isn't that great?
PR stamp. Yep, from
I
last
love
night.
it. Oh, my favorite is that we get paid by the Packers and Mark Murphy. Mark Murphy personally pays GSED TV. I don't know
For
if you knew
sure.
this,
Yeah,
but
I
we
did.
are
Yeah.
on the payroll. So
Wow. Well, you know what? When I saw him last night, I should have said, "Hey, Aaron Nagler says thanks for that paycheck last week."
the check cleared. He's very happy. And here we are talking about like how Devondre Campbell has not played up to his All-Pro level from last year. I don't know how that's PR points, but clearly I'm sure 3D chess that definitely checks out. Defense in general, as you mentioned, it's fascinating to watch the stretches they have where they can be dominant. I mean, it doesn't feel like it from week one, but there was a stretch in there where they absolutely came to play up the intensity, especially in the second half. And they had a stretch where they played really well against Minnesota. And for the most part, it's funny to watch those opening drives. That's an issue from early last year as well. Those opening drives resulting in touchdowns. But then whatever they need to do, they seem to find their groove. And I don't know if it's the calls are different. I don't know if it's because the openers are done or what have you, but they've had now 2 games where they've had decent stretches with real consistency and gotten off the field.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be able to kind of last an entire game. And I don't know, as a coach, I don't know what you do there, but it sure kind of jumps off the page, so to speak, as far as you want to look at something early on in the season that you got to fix and or improve upon. That's, to me, a glaring part of it.
Yeah, it's a good point. And there's the scripting of plays is definitely a deal that like opponents are going to have a pretty firm game plan of what you are going to do. And maybe that's where later in the year, Joe Barry, as the coach, starts throwing in some more wrinkles early, right? And like releasing their plan on the first series to try to combat what they think is going to come. But I would agree from the middle portions of the game, especially second half in Minnesota, they were a completely different defense.
Yes.
when you can dominate for a 25, 30-minute stretch, you're going to win most of those games.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a lot harder to dominate a Tampa offense or
Yes,
the
it
LA
is.
Rams offense,
Yeah.
right? Like there's groups that are going to put stress on you all 60 minutes. And last night, that's just not one of them. Their offensive line's not good enough.
Oh, Lord.
Easiest way to say it.
I mean, they have a wing T offense, basically.
Bad, dude.
I mean, how it's hard to watch NFL football when the offensive play caller clearly doesn't trust his quarterback to do anything other than hand it off until it got deep into the fourth quarter and they had to throw it.
And I thought Fields showed more promise last night, even with just 7 completions, than he did in the monsoon in Chicago against San Francisco, because he was eluding some pressure. Packers were in his lap all night. I mean, you go back and look at it.
Talk about constricting the pocket, and that's what we saw throughout
rushing
camp,
it down, collapsing from behind. He steps up, he moves with his eyes up. They do have to maybe trust him just a little bit more, but I guess maybe that comes with time. And really, I don't care. I really don't care when they decide to start trusting Justin Fields to throw the ball. The longer, the better for me.
Yeah, I'm down with it. And hey, look, if it means that eventually they have to throw it and Jair Alexander gets an interception and then gets to narrate it on the highlight afterwards on NBC, I'm all about that life.
That was freaking sweet.
That was so great. It was so great. Preston Smith had a whale of a game. It's interesting how it's so funny to me that, like, I don't know, obviously when we're watching the game, Corey and I, we're doing it live on YouTube. And so there are all sorts of, stream of consciousness chats from Packers fans, literally from all over the world. And it is so funny how people eventually always say, if you get like just a drive into it, somebody's like, oh, where's Rashawn Gary? Where's Preston Smith? It's like they've literally been out there for like 12 plays. Can we let things kind of breathe a little bit? I know, and then of course, right as rain, sure enough, of course, Preston and Rashawn both show up, big plays. But I thought Preston overall just played a solid game, and probably my favorite play is when he stayed home for the guitar fake. When they tried to take the deep shot, and Preston's like, I've seen this one before, and it was all over it. And look, Fields is an athletic guy, and I thought, he did a good job of, again, coming in under control. How many times have we seen guys come in that scenario and either fling themselves at the guy's legs or, just completely whiff on the tackle? Preston did a great job of kind of coming to balance and making sure that wherever Fields tried to go, he was going to kind of be enveloped.
Yeah, and I thought Preston was fantastic in the run game too. I mean, when they're going to stretch the edge, he's going to set it, and he's going to force you inside, and he's going to make you go to the other 10 dudes on the field and give some help.
Yeah.
This is why I love this podcast, because there's certain things, Nags, that you notice throughout the game, and then there's certain tendencies that get kind of picked up, and you saw it. I mean, he was waiting on that bootleg guitar fake, waiting for it, and he goes, okay, now
and he explodes the way you see him recognize it. That's what I love. If you look at the tape, he's like, he sits there and he's like trying to diagnose, and then the second he sees the guitar thing and he's like, oh, and he just goes. There's no hesitation. That's what I love about it.
I can't remember if it was a Montgomery run to the outside where I think he makes contact like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They kind of hand fought, and he finally gets him to turn back inside, and that's when they stop him. I want to say it was like a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 play.
Yeah.
And those are plays that he made in Washington, which frankly was the reason why I thought he was going to make as much money as he did. It wasn't necessarily just getting after the passer, because that's always great, and everybody loves to do that. But like Sammy Watkins said about being a receiver and wanting to block, passing is a lot more fun for everybody. So defenders want to rush the passer. Wide receivers want to catch passes. Rarely do they want to be a part of the run game. And he was a huge part of it yesterday.
Yeah, he was. I'm glad you brought up Sammy, because we can switch over to the offense for a second and talk about the effect he had on the game. I mean, it's not like they targeted him 12 times or anything, but they clearly wanted to get him involved early. That first drive, the play action up the seam. And then late with the big catch, play action. I don't know if it was an over route or what, but that's, if that's all he does every game, that's a huge win. That is exactly what you brought him in for. And I was so happy to see him involved in a meaningful way. And I don't mean like, oh, he's, out there all the time, catching a ton of balls. No, no, no. If he can just, in certain moments, affect the game, pick up first downs, provide, produce some explosive
Big time.
plays. That's what you need him for. And he was perfect at that last night.
Well, and he bought into what they're going to need you to do. I mean, they're not. Matt LaFleur's going to make no bones about it. If you're going to be a receiver in this offense, you're going to use your two hands to block more than you are to catch, right? Like that's just going to be your lot in life in this offense. And when you buy into that, the quicker you buy into the rest of the team and you buy into what their offense is going to be. I thought even two negs, the deep over is fantastic, but the one that Rodgers misses on, I couldn't tell if it was, couldn't tell if it was an RPO, or if it was just a flat out, I got one-on-one over here and I'm going to send it on over. He misses low. That's where I think Watkins is going to be fantastic. Is those short to intermediate routes.
100%.
Especially off the run.
Backside. I said it all off season once they signed him. I'm like, this you're going to have 3x1. He's going to be the one on the back end. And if it's there and the guy's playing off, it's money. And yeah, you're right. Rodgers hits him low. It is funny though, because like, I think Sammy, that's the kind of thing where I expect as the year goes on, they'll be more in sync with that. Because I think Rodgers is seeing, I haven't seen the all 22 yet, but I believe I'm guessing Rodgers probably saw a safety crashing down or somebody or a linebacker or whatever. Rodgers is always going to err on the side of caution and take you away from danger. It's what he's done in the whole back end of his career. And I expect Sammy in his mind is like, oh, I want to make sure I stay up so I can get yards after the catch and keep moving, blah, blah, blah. And that's just a thing where I think the more reps they get, the more they'll get used to each other and what they're, I think he'll probably tell Sammy, look, I'm never, ever going to lead you into danger. I don't want you to get you lit up. It's just not what we do here. So, when I throw it low, get down. How many times have we seen Devontae go down and get those,
Always.
So I think that's a case of just needing reps. But to your point, that is exactly how I expect them to use him. And I think it sets up things like a deep over later in the game when you're looking at Sammy in that 3x1 and you're like, oh, great, I got to come down because they're probably going to throw that slant. Okay, bye.
Well, and you already saw, I think, the 3x1 set that you're going to see a ton of on the trip side of Lazard in the tight slot. It still sets up what I think Rodgers' favorite ball to him is the seam up the middle, kind of that.
Which we saw in camp.
Settle 100%. At 12, 15, and Cobb in the middle slot where he can block on out, and Dobbs kind of as the outside receiver. And you saw it work to perfection on the tunnel screen. That they're going to try to run that a lot and get those two who can be physical. Cobb not so much, but Lazard can match up against.
Although I will say, hey, to Cobb's credit, he put his nose in there last night.
Hey, he ate that thing to the chest. No doubt.
I will say I was impressed. I thought to myself, I didn't say it on the broadcast, but I thought, oh, good for old man Cobb.
No doubt.
Put his nose in there in the run game.
I thought it was funny because that play then leads to the next one where Cobb catches it on the outside, right? Like maybe 15 yards, they pick up the first down. And I was talking to a guy that I coach with just before this, and he goes, you know what? You know who I'm starting to hate more than Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, no.
Freaking Randall Cobb. Freaking Randall Cobb. I hate that guy. I can't understand it. He gets one ball and starts jumping on up with the let's goes because he's had like 1,200 yard year.
I love it.
Like, well, there's a part of the fact
that
he's still playing at 12.
The fact that he's still playing. B, the fact that there are people like that existing in his Twitter feed undoubtedly all the time.
Always.
Saying like, oh, you're old, been hurt, making too much money, whatever. And so when he gets that catch, and by the way, the big let's go was after a catch previously. So he had a couple of let's goes, and I'm in on it. I love it. I love that. That is Randall saying, keep doubting me. I'm just going to keep catching balls, moving the chains, get a touchdown here or there, and I'm playing with my best friend. Like, how great is that?
You can't beat it, man.
Nothing wrong.
You can't beat it. And
the
other part of it is the scramble drill that he's made such a living off of.
Yes.
I bet you see more and more of Romeo Doubs kind of understanding why and how Randall makes himself available and open. Because that's where I think possession-wise, Romeo's really going to be able to cook in that 12 to 15, 18-yard range, where he starts seeing Rodgers step on up into the pocket. And if you notice, Cobb is the only one of, all right, my zone is going to be right here by the sideline. Everyone else like, hold on, he might throw it to me. He might throw it to me. I got to figure something out.
Yeah. No.
Once it's instinctual, I think Dobbs is going to be the best one at that part of
I very much agree with that. Speaking of the wide receivers, and we're talking Randall Cobb, what do you make of the Amari Rodgers situation? The fact that he cannot get on the field. I mean, no snaps in Minnesota, one snap last night. I know, clearly he is or was probably drafted to do what Randall Cobb is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way on God's green earth they're putting him in over Cobb while Cobb is healthy, and
No.
Rodgers is never, ever going to acquiesce to that. But it does seem odd that he can't get on the field at all. And the fact that they have Watson running a lot of the orbit motion and a lot of the motion in general, stuff that we saw Amari doing throughout camp. But man, I don't know what he did to get in this really serious doghouse other than playing Randall Cobb's position. But it seems serious, whatever it is.
Yeah, it does. It comes to I mean, I don't want to speculate as to what the guy did.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think we've seen individuals in the NFL before have a big week, right? And then
Right.
all of a sudden, maybe it was Rex Ryan was talking about this with Geno Smith. He's like, leads him to a big win on the road his rookie year, and he was late to a team meeting on Monday morning. Like,
Right.
there's those development things that can always turn your head away from the coaching staff, right? And
Sure.
and they can
Yeah.
kind of keep you over here. But I also think there's something to the effect, Nags, and nobody else really liked this part of it, where maybe Rich Bisaccia said, hey, if he's going to be my kick returner and my punt returner,
Right.
I need to work with this dude as much as possible, because 20-yarder last night was great. Followed up the next time by muffing the thing out of bounds.
The muff. What's so frustrating about that muff is he's got a lane and he sees it up the right sideline, and he just starts running before he secures the ball.
Exactly.
And if he just secures it, that's probably a good chunk return. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
it's bigger than the first one.
Yeah, I agree. It sets up, but it looks like he's got a wall for a day. You know what I mean? So I think he got excited and got out ahead of himself, which, again, understandably in the sense that he's a young kid still, but man, you cannot be making those mistakes if you want to get on the grass. You just can't.
No, you
just
can't.
Cannot.
And I love the idea and the prospect of him doing jet sweeps and motions and slants as much as everybody, but you already have a defined role. You got a defined role, Nags. Now go master that, and then we can start talking about expanding.
Yeah,
so I didn't have nearly the problem that a lot of people did with it.
Right. No, I feel you. I totally feel you. It's just interesting to me. Like, it's a third rounder. Brian traded up for him. Bit of a disconnect there with the coaching staff, maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Unless it is, as you say, like Bisaccia saying, "Look, this is my guy. I need him all the time.
I need to figure this thing out with him first."
Like, that's a good point. Let's go forward here on the offensive side to talk about the offensive line for a little bit, because to me, the whole performance of the offense, everyone's talking about the backs for good reason. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are godlike. We all saw how the whole offense changes once you start running it through those guys. I don't think that's any secret. But, man, the play of the offensive line really kind of is the engine, as I always say, about making all of that work. And it's no secret. You put Elton Jenkins back out there, and that knocks Newman to guard. It's a whole nother world. It's just a whole nother world with the offensive line kind of performance they got last night. It wasn't perfect. Obviously, they got protection issues. Some it's really weird decisions when guys are getting to the second level at times. But for the most part, I thought, God, you look at week one, and then you fast forward and look at last night. It's just nice. It's like going to Oz and the color showing up. You know what I mean?
Well, and I thought it was pointed by Matt to say that he doesn't think they win the game after the game.
Without Elton.
I don't think we win the game if Elton Jenkins doesn't play. Elton Jenkins has played better than he did last night.
A lot better. Yeah.
The enthusiasm that he brings to the rest of the unit, I don't think can necessarily get matched by a lot of other players.
Just the physicality on those.
No doubt.
There's a number of plays they run to the right where he just mashes down on some dude, and like Dillon or Jones are like, "Oh, thanks. I guess I'll take a walk."
Well, and I mean, Yash gets beat by Robert Quinn one time. Guess what? Robert Quinn beats a lot of guys. He has for a long time.
Oh, that pissed me off, because like the drive before that, they're running the ball, they're moving the chains, things are great, like life is good. That next drive, they go 3 and out, ending with that sack, and it's like on third down, they're on 3rd and 10, and they go 5 wide.
Oh,
leaving Yash on an island with Quinn. Like, if you want to draw up a recipe for failure, that's it.
Yeah, Robert Quinn's really good. He's really,
like,
really good.
good.
And he's going to beat people like that. I think they have found the true recipe, and Bobby Tunyon was another part of it. Dude, when he is in on the pass game and chipping different defensive ends, they have more time. Like, I know it's not exactly what he's put on this team to do.
It sucks for Tunyon. It's
does.
gotta eat him up as far as like not being able to produce numbers wise, but also I think he's probably loving the fact that he's even out there.
Oh, for sure.
You know, he's coming off that ACL. Who knows how he's feeling, etc. But I totally hear you. It's like you watch him work. It's just like the beginning of last year where it'd be great to have him going down the seam and wheel routes and all this stuff. And I'm sure that will come as the year progresses. But right now, with their offensive line still kind of, you know, being nurtured back to health, so to speak, yeah, I think it makes a world of sense to use them as they are.
The play that I remember the most from 2021 of Bobby was him absolutely pancaking Nick Bosa on the chip. And you're going to see, I think, a lot more of that next week. And maybe his time comes in that week 4, 5, 6, right? When they get the Jets, they get the Giants. New England's no slouch, but I think there'll be holes in that defense where you can get them. So that'll be a time for him to get moving. But he allows them to really get their feet underneath him. And John Runyon Jr. Back into the fold was I think key for them letting Josh Myers get on out and pull. That's where he is 1,000% at his best.
Myers, his athleticism, it's so weird to me. I see so many like negative comments about him on Twitter during the game. And look, did he leave plays out there? Did he have bad plays? No question about it. But you see him on that touchdown run. Are you kidding me? When he's pulling, the athleticism, the ability to get to the second level, it's absolute teaching tape at times. And he's a young kid. He still hasn't even played a full season.
Well, and
as an NFL player.
He's like 6'5.5", 6'6", 320, 315.
And moving like that.
He's a freaking moose. Like, generally, those guys play outside. He's, I think, too big almost to play center.
I agree. It's bizarre to me. When you look at it on tape, it's like, that's not a center. It's like looking at Zach Tom play tackle.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, everything's wrong here. What?
None of this makes sense to me. But it's working, so we're going to keep doing it, I guess, right? But when he gets out with a head of steam in front of him and he has an eye on who he wants, he's going to find you. Like, he's going to knuckle up with Roquan Smith was the recipient of a couple of them last night. And I could tell Roquan Smith was trying to figure out when they were getting the bus going after a couple of those pulls.
Nothing to do with it.
I have had enough of this. I'm going to go get paid somewhere else. I don't want to keep getting pulled and cut for.
Nope. I love it. I'm always like, hey, you talk about Packers PR. I'm always going to be rooting for guys. And I understand it's frustrating watching guys get beat. I understand, like, there's a level of play. There's a standard, right? As Matt always says, the standard is the standard. But, man, I'm rooting for guys. I want them to succeed.
I love that part. And, Negs, that's why I think certain fans are so dialed in with the negative part of it. But man, when you watch these games and see how good both sides are, you pull for the certain dudes that you see making leaps forward, right? And getting further along. That's one of the reasons, as you know, the final thing about the offensive line always ends up being 69.
Right.
That's why I pull so hard to see Dave back on the field, because of how much it took for him to become the player he is and how much he freaking cares about it. And then to see this for the last 21 months, you just hope that the nightmare finally ends on Sunday.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, wait. So do you travel with the team? I don't even know. Do you go down to Tampa?
No, we will be, we'll be back here in our palatial 97.3 of the game Packers
studio.
So
you'll be in the Milwaukee area on Saturday? Is that what you're telling me?
I will be in the Milwaukee area on Saturday.
Because we will be down in Milwaukee for the launch party of Carry the G. So I hope you can stop by Scout Wine Merchants on Saturday evening.
Well, I want to trade this 16-ouncer for one of those 16-ouncers that you guys were having at the tailgate yesterday.
Yes, you do, my friend. You have no idea.
I love the video of Ramage looking around like, do I grab this spotted cow that I absolutely love? No.
Better not. Better not. Did you see New Glarus actually tweeted us after that? It was fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've got. They said they were lovely. It was a lovely tweet. They were like, "Good luck in the Wisconsin beer trade or whatever. I don't know. It was a very welcoming tweet,
Nice. There you
even
go,
though we like passed over their beer in our video. But I told Corey, I was like, you should have made that about Miller Lite or something. I can't believe you went after New Glarus.
Yeah, honestly. And then they were just like, hey, Moon Man's better. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know.
Every craft beer snob, that's the first.
Every
it's not
beer
even their
snob.
best beer.
Oh my God, that is the worst shit ever. Ever. Really anytime you talk about Spotted Cow or have a Spotted Cow or like any tweet about it, anything, it only takes the under is always in play. 5 minutes, always under. It's not even their best beer. Shut the fuck up. I don't care.
Thank you.
I don't care.
I really don't care. The worst is when somebody out of state asks for you for a recommendation. You're like, man, I really like Spotted Cow. They're like, oh, Spotted Cow's not. It's a Wisconsin beer, but I'm looking for something better. Well, you're not really finding a ton.
You're not going to find something.
Just enjoy it.
Better.
Shut up.
I mean,
enjoy it. Shut up and buy me one.
Here's the other thing, though. It's like I do love a lot of the other New Glarus stuff. Like Moon Man is phenomenal. 2 Women is great. I love those beers. But I'm telling you, especially when I'm there for training camp, get myself a Spotted Cow. Can't beat that, man.
With one of them big old butter burgers over.
Now you're talking. I can't believe I'm going to be home in a couple days.
Half a stick of butter and lay that bad boy on me. I'm ready to rock.
Let's do it. Speaking of ready to rock, what do you think? Sunday, Packers taking on the Buccaneers. You watch that game in New Orleans, man. You talk about a defense. You talk about a defense, all three levels. Problematic for the Packers, man. They've got to get that running game going. In a way, they were unable to the last 2 times they played this team. I don't know how they do it. Even if Dave is back, I do not feel great about their chances in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's why I think this game yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say, against the Bears was as vital as it was. I mean, was it pretty? Right. Not at all stretches, but guess what? It was a win that you really needed, because if you were staring down the barrel of going down here 0-2, I'd already basically chalked it up as 0-3. I mean, like, it's going to be a real test against that defense, because you're not running the ball as much as they did against Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett and Goldston. They got some absolute studs in that front seven. And you want to talk about sideline to sideline, Levante David and Devin White.
Devin White's ridiculous.
They're the pillars of it right now.
Well, what's nuts is like everything they tried to do against Vea a couple years ago just did, because remember, he didn't play in the week 3 game. And then it didn't matter because, like, for whatever reason, they kept trying to get outside, which never make any sense to me. But then in the NFC Championship game, Vea comes back, and they could not. I mean, that was still when Corey Linsley was there, and they could not move him. They could not move him. So
Meyer's going to have his work cut out for him.
Yes, he is, in a big way. And I'm telling you, man, like, you want to run the ball, and I hope they do. But the backs are going to be – it's going to be a bruiser of a game, I think, on both sides, because I think you flip it, Tampa – they haven't looked great on offense. No. And I think their key, obviously, with their 4,000-year-old quarterback, is we want to hand the ball off and then get somebody to bite up, whether it's a safety, whether it's a linebacker, and then let Tom go to work. Because, man, Fournette is a wrecking ball. They can move people along that offensive line, even with all their injuries. I think this is going to be a bruiser of a game.
They don't win the Super Bowl if it wasn't for Leonard Fournette in 2020. He was one of the main reasons they win the game.
No question.
And going
or even
forward,
got to the game.
Got to the game.
That Saints playoff game, that Packers playoff game. Yeah, he was a monster. No doubt.
They're not getting there if it's not for Fournette. And I don't know what their wide receiver position is going to look like, right? Skeletal remains a Julio Jones already with a hamstring pull. Mike Evans maybe punching somebody into a suspension. I don't know. Yeah. That was a two-handed club move. I mean, that wasn't even WWE style. That was just, I'm going to hurt
What's so funny, you know the last time he was suspended? When he fought with Marshawn Lattimore. Like, what? Can we not have these dudes play each other anymore? Like, we got to stop with this. Like, this is bad. This is in front of the children. We got to teach the children
kids
to love. I don't know what's going on there.
Well,
man.
and then I mean
that out.
Yeah, and then I mean Godwin's down too, so they're down really their top 3 guys.
This is my point though. Like, okay, yes, you get excited about that as a Packers fan, but if you're ripping off 5-6 yards a pop with Fournette or whoever, you know, Brady's got to do that little dink and dunk crap he's done all his career, and then eventually you'll commit numbers and he'll find someone deep. He did it against the Saints in the fourth quarter.
That's his thing, man.
And it's some dude you've never heard of, or some walk on, like, or
Well, all of
Scotty
a sudden,
Miller going back.
Scotty Miller enters the chat this weekend, and I'm like,
Ugh.
I thought that guy was out of the league getting his pension already, and instead he's back in just in time for a Packers game. Luckily, Kevin King is live tweeting instead of on the line.
I love that though. I will say it was great.
Wasn't that awesome?
Live tweet.
He was
game.
so fired
up.
Dope.
It was dope. It was like, like I can't speak for the guy, but I have to suspect he's wishing he was out there with those guys. But
yeah, no doubt.
But it was cool to see him. Cool to see him live tweeting it, no doubt. All right, well, Bill, we'll see what happens when the Packers head down to Tampa. Can't thank you enough for hanging out again,
dude.
Beer and ball. It's what we do, brother. Good luck on Packers OT, and hopefully I'll see you on Saturday night.
Yeah, hopefully I see you on Saturday night. Maybe even I don't know what your travel schedule is. Friday. Well, depending if you're in the Milwaukee area, I won't high school football game.
Who is there?
Get you at.
Oh, maybe I'll do. Oh, wait, are you playing? Is your team playing?
We are the number 4 team in the state right now, and we are playing the number 1 team, McGuanago.
Oh, come on. Big upset. Big upset
game. Friday. Big game. They knocked these Warhawks out of the playoffs last year, so they might have something coming.
Maybe I'll come down for that. That'd be dope, because I'll be up in Appleton, but maybe I'll make it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll send you the address.
Please do. Please do. Some serious beer and ball on Friday night.
No doubt.
Friday
and a lot of beer after that one.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it. Bill, this is awesome. I'll talk to you next week. Go Pack, go.
We'll talk about it next week, man.